Hello, folks, and welcome back to Chris Wyatt. This is Colonel retired Chris Wyatt, U.S. Army, here with an update as day 13 is ended and day 14 of Russia's invasion of Ukraine is now underway, March 9th, 2022. On Tuesday, U.S. President Joe Biden held a surprise press conference for many around the world, announcing that he will block sale of Russian oil and gas in the United States. While folks may get excited about this, it comes 9 months too late, and this ban won't immediately cripple Putin's economy. Russia accounts for just 3% of U.S. crude oil imports, and Russian oil accounts for just 1% of the crude oil processed by U.S. refineries. Now, not only will it not have an impact there, but it won't really hit Russia immediately either. Biden's effort to stop oil and gas imports and new purchases is in effect as of today, but those with existing contracts have 45 days to stop deliveries. So we'll continue to see Russian oil pour into the United States for the next month and a half. New Delhi television now claims that Russia has proposed a ceasefire for today, the 9th of March, 2022, to allow people to escape through humanitarian corridors. U.S. intelligence officials say Russia is facing setbacks in the Ukraine. Well, welcome to the party, folks. We really needed people at the CIA and the Director of National Intelligence to tell us that. You think we couldn't figure that out all on our own from social media or from the news cycle itself, the pro-Ukraine, anti-Russian media? We kind of figured that out. But just in case we missed it, CIA director says Russian President Putin's assumptions about Ukraine before the invasion turned out to be profoundly flawed. Avril Haines, the director of national intelligence, stated that we assess Moscow underestimated the strength of Ukraine's resistance and the degree of internal military challenges we are observing, which include an ill-constructed plan, morale issues, and considerable logistical issues. And where have I heard this before? Oh, that's right. I told you this on day 1 and day 2 and day 3 and day 4 and so on. Only now do we hear this as an unprecedented disclosure of analysis and assessment from classified agencies. Avril Haines also added that it remains unclear whether Russia will pursue a maximalist plan of capturing all of Ukraine, and that if it does, it will be especially challenging for Moscow to hold control of the country. Now, where have I heard that before? Oh, yeah, right here. Also told you that geopolitically, it makes sense for Russia to invade to capture the eastern third of Ukraine up to the Dnieper River and incorporate all of that into Russia proper, since they've already annexed the Crimea under Barack Hussein Obama's watch and Joe Biden's watch. It makes sense geopolitically to take the eastern third, which has a large Russian minority and is much easier for Russia to swallow. Not easy, but easier. Taking the rest of Ukraine could prove to be quite challenging, particularly given in the southwestern corner of Ukraine, which is mountainous and could serve as a redoubt for guerrilla fighters. President Zelinsky calls Sleepy Joe's bluff on supporting Ukraine. In a surprise move, the U.S. is stunned by Poland's fighter jet offer. The Polish government stunned Washington on Tuesday by announcing it was ready to transfer all of its 28 MiG-29 advanced fighter planes to the United States, with the understanding that they would be handed over to Ukrainian pilots fighting off the Russian invasion. The move, which came with a request the U.S. supply Poland with used jets with corresponding capabilities, F-16s, came after a week of back and forth negotiations between Washington and Warsaw over transferring the jets to Ukraine. Now, these jets are needed to fight off the Russians. But after vociferous denials by Warsaw that it was even considering donating MiGs to Ukraine, this offer arrived completely unexpected and caught the Department of Defense and the Department of State and Joe Biden completely off guard. So Zelinsky called Sleepy Joe on his bluff. In its own statement, the Pentagon on Tuesday dismissed Poland's offer floated hours earlier to transfer those MiG-29s to the U.S. for delivery to Ukraine. They were to fly to Ramstein and then be flown to the Ukraine. Pentagon Press Secretary, retired Admiral John Kirby, said in a statement that the Pentagon did not believe Poland's proposal was tenable, just hours after Polish officials released a statement saying the government was ready to deploy all of its MiG-29 fighter jets to U.S. Air Force's Ramstein Air Base in Germany so that they could be provided to the Ukraine in its fight against Russia. Kirby had the following to say: "It's simply not clear to us that there is a substantive rationale for it. We will continue to consult with Poland and our NATO allies about this issue and the difficult logistical challenges it presents, but we do not believe Poland's proposal is a tenable one." Then why did you lead people to believe for the past week that you were actually working on this particular thing? Zelinsky asked for this just a couple of days ago in his appeal to the U.S. Senate on Saturday in a Zoom call. Why did you let the public believe that you're actually considering transferring F-16s and then you backed away from it? This is a completely broken administration with no concept of geopolitics, no concept of operational military events, no concept of geostrategic planning or strategic communications. They are utter morons. This never should have seen the light of day, this discussion, if it was never going to be fulfilled. This is another example of an empty-headed, brain-dead, Manchurian cadaver regime that has no idea what it's doing, that simply blathers anything they think will be popular without thinking about the consequences of their failure. And here we see, once again, the consequences of failure, as now we see that the Biden administration was just bluster and bullshit. They had no intention whatsoever of providing Poland with jets. This is simply something that has left the Ukrainians in an even worse situation by getting them excited about something they thought they could get. MiG-29s are incredible air-to-air fighter aircraft. The United Kingdom commits to banning Russian oil over several months. The UK will phase out imports of Russian oil in response to Vladimir Putin's illegal invasion of Ukraine by the end of the year. This, according to Business Secretary Kwasi Kwarteng. Phasing out imports will not be immediate, but will instead allow the UK more than enough time to adjust their supply chains, supporting both industry and consumers. The government will work with companies through a new task force on oil, another patronage machine body, a task force on oil to support them to make use of this period and finding alternative supplies. What were you doing for the last 30 years? More importantly, what have you been doing since Ukraine found 70,000 Russian troops on its border in March of 2021, when it was obvious to even the most blind fool that this president was incapable of executing and planning foreign policy? His reaction to the coup in Myanmar, when a military junta overthrew the government on the 1st of February, 2021, was muted silence for the most part. His reaction to the conflict in Tigray, muted silence for the most part. His reaction to the coups taking place in West Africa and Mali twice, the attempted assassination of the president of Niger, the coup in Sudan, muted silence. The arrival of 70,000 Russian troops deployed to the Ukrainian border in March of 2021, muted silence. There is a theme here from Manchurian cadaver, and it is feckless, callow, weak-willed, incompetent foreign policy. And the United Kingdom should have been phasing this out a long time ago. For their part, the European Union also announced its plans to slash Russian gas imports over the course of the year by 2/3. The EU's executive arm said it would erase a huge share of its dependency on Russia by tapping new gas supplies. From where and why aren't they already tapped? Ramping up reserves. Where are the reserves going to come from? Are they going to come magically out of air for next winter? And accelerating efforts to be more energy efficient. Well, why weren't you already more energy efficient? This is total nonsense. This is bureaucratic gobbledygook. If you could have done this already, or you can do it, if you can do this to stop your dependency by 2/3, why haven't you already done it in the past? By the end of this year, we can replace 100 billion cubic meters of gas imports from Russia. It's 2/3 of what we import from them, says EU Commission Vice President Franz Timmermans. He spoke to reporters in Strasbourg on Tuesday. So why haven't you done it already? Yum Brands, the parent of KFC and Pizza Hut, said it's pausing its investment in Russia, a key market that's helped them achieve record development the past year. They also said they're suspending operations of its 70 KFC company-owned restaurants in the country and finalized an agreement to suspend all Pizza Hut restaurant operations with its master franchisee. They have at least 1,000 KFC and 50 Pizza Hut locations in Russia that are nearly all independent franchisees. Foreigners traveling to the Ukraine to fight against the Russian invasion as mercenaries will be given Ukrainian citizenship, according to comments on television by the first Deputy Interior Minister, Yevhen Yanin. Yanin told a phone-in, if such persons from among foreign citizens are interested in obtaining Ukrainian citizenship, our legislation provides for such an opportunity. Thousands of people are believed to already flocked to the Ukraine to join in the fight. Beijing weighs in on the Ukraine crisis. Well, hello, Xi Jinping. Nice of you to join the party. Chinese president calls for maximum restraint over Ukraine. I think you need to talk to your friend in Moscow for that. Chinese president for life, Xi Jinping, the totalitarian fascist Chi-Com, called for maximum restraint in Ukraine overnight and said China is pained to see the flames of war reignited in Europe. No, they're not. No, they're not. They're thrilled to see it. They're thrilled to see it. This is the strongest statement to date on the conflict by a Chinese official. Xi, speaking at a virtual meeting with French President Emmanuel Macron and German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, said the three countries should jointly support peace talks between Russia and Ukraine. without the United States. Why is that, Xi? Obviously, the Chinese don't want to be a player on the global stage. They want to be the dominant player on the global stage. Otherwise, they would have suggested they do it with the United States. She describes the situation in Ukraine as very worrying and said the priority should be preventing it from escalating or spinning out of control. He also said France and Germany should make efforts to reduce negative impacts of the crisis and expressed concern about the impact of sanctions on stability of global finance, energy supplies, transportation, and supply chains. Well, duh. China is wholly dependent on energy supplies imported, particularly from the Middle East and Africa. Any disruptions to the global marketplace affect them very much directly. Ukrainian authorities are reporting thousands of people have taken the opportunity to flee the city of Sumy after a humanitarian corridor was established. Approximately 5,000 people, 1,000 cars evacuated from Sumy in northeastern Ukraine. One of the towns I've warned about for several days is likely to be encircled and cut off if Ukrainians don't pull back towards Kiev. This from the deputy head of Ukrainian presidential office, Kirill Timoshenko. United States may not be accepting Polish MiG-29s at Ramstein for transfer to the Ukraine, but they are sending Patriot missiles to Poland. CNN's Barbara Starr reports that the United States is sending 2 Patriot missile batteries to Poland as a defensive deployment to counter any potential threat to U.S. and NATO allies during Russia's ongoing invasion. Wouldn't be the first time we sent Patriot missiles to other friends, partners, and allies in the past, including Israel after the Gulf War and during the Gulf War, actually, when Saddam Hussein fired Scud missiles into Israel unprovoked. At the direction of the Secretary of Defense and the invitation of our Polish allies, General Walters, the commander of the United States European Command, has directed U.S. Army, Europe, and Africa to reposition 2 Patriot batteries to Poland. This is a prudent force protection measure that underpins our commitment to Article 5 and will in no way support any offensive operations. All of that's true. Every step we take is intended to deter aggression and reassure our allies, said EUCOM Public Affairs Captain Adam Miller. And on this one, I don't disagree. This is a prudent move, given the danger of aircraft overflying Poland, chasing Ukrainian jets. This is a very real situation. They should be doing the same in the Baltic states. Now, I have been opposed to the token deployment of U.S. troops, which simply exacerbated tensions, but tensions are already high, and our allies are in some jeopardy here. It makes sense. On Monday, United Kingdom Prime Minister Boris Johnson hosted the Canadian fascist totalitarian Justin Trudeau and the Netherlands Prime Minister Mark Rutte. And they discussed events in the Ukraine.
And because this is a critical moment and we stand together with the people of Ukraine in the face of the aggression that they are suffering at the hands of Vladimir Putin's war machine.
We stand united in standing against Russia's further aggression against Ukraine, and we reflect on the unity that we've seen with 141 different countries condemning at the UN these illegal acts.
Venezuela has released at least 2 Americans from jail in an apparent goodwill gesture to the Biden administration after a visit to Caracas by a high-level U.S. delegation. Now, one of the 3 prisoners was Gustavo Cardenas, who was among 6 Citgo oil executives arrested back in 2017 and convicted on charges that the U.S. government says were fabricated. The other was a Cuban-American detained on unrelated charges. Virtual private networks, the use of them in Russia has been skyrocketing to an all-time high. Russian citizens are rushing to evade the censorship imposed by Russian authorities. Demand for VPNs in Russia has reached an all-time high after the government announced the Western social media ban on the 4th of March. The government banned Twitter, Facebook, and several independent news outlets, which is a tit for tat, given that they've been deplatformed everywhere in the United States, with the exception of Odyssey, it appears at the moment. Russia began the censorship on the 24th of February when it officially started invading Ukraine, and the process began slowing down Facebook and Twitter and preventing some images and videos from loading. Last Friday, the government went a step further in trying to halt the information that Russians are getting by blocking Facebook and Twitter and introducing new laws to make contradicting the government's narrative on the invasion illegal for journalists. All journalists, not just Russian journalists. Lumen becomes the 2nd major American internet carrier pulling out of Russia. Now, this is likely to increase Russians' isolation from outside information. Lumen became the 2nd top U.S.-based carrier to make such a move in recent days, following Friday's announcement by Cogent Communications. Taken together, these moves are likely to make it harder for Russians to gain access to international services, such as news sites and social media based in the West. The U.S. ban on Russian energy is likely to exacerbate the global energy crunch. Although the ban's effect in the U.S. is expected to be minimal, it will affect the global marketplace. It's not merely symbolic. Oil prices are set globally on a global market. Oil is a fungible commodity traded in dollars. But the average U.S. gas prices are now $4.17 a gallon, according to the American Automobile Association. That's the highest nominal level on record, beating previous highs set back in 2008. Adjusted for inflation, gasoline set a real all-time high of $5.26 back in July of 2008. Ukraine's energy minister says Russian military units are allegedly torturing staff at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant to force them into making a public statement. Herman Halushenko made the allegation in a social media post where he said the operating staff had been held hostage for 4 days. Let's take a look now at the United Kingdom Defense Intelligence Ukraine battle map on Ukraine for the day 13. You'll see here virtually no change on this map. Little territory has changed hands between Ukrainians and Russians on day 13. Day 14, with Russia apparently calling for a ceasefire of sorts, we may see little gains by either side today. That's the update for the Ukraine situation. Day 13 as we enter day 14. This is day 14 update for March 9th, 2022. Thanks a lot, folks. Be sure to become a subscriber by pushing that button right down there and leave a comment if you'd like. We appreciate feedback. Be safe out there, folks.
And we are also working closely together to coordinate humanitarian assistance, defensive military support, and of course, a very strong sanctions package. And if more is necessary, we will do more.
Расскажите, у вас здесь жизнь как сейчас?
Ну как